Atlantic Television Network. Welcome to Global News at 9 p.m. First, the highlights. Navy destroys 10 illegal refining sites in Delta State. Court affirms Aida Tiwak's election as governor of Ondo State. Tinubu swears in rep in Assembly Service Commission. NNPC denies sale of Port Harcourt refinery. Trump's envoy arrives Israel to discuss Gaza crisis. Oviedo begin talks with Porto for Super Eagles defender. Tubaba weds Natasha Osawaru. Forward operating base Escravos of the Nigerian Navy has destroyed 10 illegal refining sites in Warri South local government area of Delta State. The commanding officer of the FOB Escravos, Navy Captain Ikenna Okolago, who disclosed this in a statement issued in Warri on Thursday, said the illegal refining sites were deactivated at Obodo Omadino community following a series of coordinated operations guided by credible information, adding that the exercise was part of the ongoing Operation Delta Sanity 2. Okoluago said the operations aligned with the strategic directives of the Chief of Naval Staff, Vice Admiral Emmanuel Ogala, which stressed on sustained pressure on economic saboteurs, adding that the base uncovered and deactivated 2 illegal refining sites on Sunday at Obodo Omadino community. According to him, the naval personnel have also dismantled another active illegal refining site at Obodo Omadino and stressed the base's unwavering commitment to dismantling illegal refining infrastructure and safeguarding nation's oil and gas assets, and further warned that perpetrators should either desist from the illegal acts or prepare to face the full wrath of the law. Edo State Governor Mondo Kwebelo has reaffirmed his administration's commitment to fight against cultism, kidnapping, and other criminal activities threatening the peace and security of the state. The governor gave the assurance after a high-level strategy meeting with commanders and key figures of the State Special Security Squad held behind closed doors in Benin City. Speaking to journalists afterwards, Okwebelo said the discussion focused on intensifying efforts to dismantle criminal networks and secure all parts of Edo, thereby creating an environment conducive to economic growth and public safety, adding that the session enabled security leaders to align on new strategies and actions aimed at sustaining the fight against insecurity. The State Special Security Squad, comprising personnel from the Nigerian Army, Nigerian Police Force, Nigeria Security and Civil Defense Corps, NSCDC, local hunters, vigilante groups, and rehabilitated ex-cultists, has in recent times intensified operations, leading to several arrests and successful raids of unknown criminal hideouts. Edo State government has assured pensioners in the state of improved welfare and universal health coverage. Friday Agedo, the chief press secretary to the deputy governor, said his boss, Dennis Idahosa, gave the assurance when he played host to the Edo State chapter of the Nigeria Union of Pensioners in Benin during a courtesy visit to his office by members of the Edo State chapter of the Nigerian Union of Pensioners. Idahosa said Governor Mondo Kwebelo-led administration is committed to improving the welfare of all citizens, expressing the government's readiness to take care of pensioners' interests and that of all citizens. While reacting to a request concerning the need to expedite payments of outstanding arrears to already screened pensioners, cutting across local government and state level, Idahosa said the governor is keen on clearing all outstanding arrears and also assured that the pensioners would benefit from the state's universal health coverage. The state chairman of the Nigeria Union of Pensioners, Samuel Okwelebe, who spoke on behalf of his executive, enumerated challenges of the union, which include mega amounts received as pension. He commended the state government for setting up a committee to review the contributory pension scheme, also sued for improved benefits for retirees going by the improved minimum wage as applicable to workers in Edo State. Anambra State Police Command has launched a manhunt for the yet-to-be-identified gunmen who abducted and killed a popular businessman, Ifesinachi Onyekere, also known as Fish Magnet, despite the payment of an undisclosed amount for ransom. Onyekere, a son of All Progressives Grand Alliance chieftain in the state, was abducted on Saturday when some assailants invaded his residence in Ezinifite community, Okuno, Oka South local government area of Anambra State in a late-night attack. Eyewitnesses said the incident sent panic and shockwaves to the area as the armed hoodlums shot the victim in the leg before whisking him away in his car and escaped through bush paths towards Nafia, while firing gunshots into the air, thereby causing panic in the area. When contacted on the development, the state police spokesman SP Tochukwu Ikenga confirmed the development in a statement, adding that joint security operatives had recovered the victim's vehicle the assailants used to escape the scene. The Commissioner of Police, Ikyoye Orutugu, had directed all tactical and intelligence units to redouble their efforts in tracking down the armed men responsible for the abduction and subsequent killing of Ife Sinachi Onyekere, the managing director of Fish Magnet Outlet, who was attacked in the evening of July 27, 2025 at his residence in Ezinifite village, Okuno, Oka. According to Ikenga, the CP, while condemning the killing, assured the public that the criminal elements behind this cowardly act would be brought to book. Nigeria Security and Civil Defense Corps Anambra State Command has urged residents living in flood-prone areas to relocate to the upland due to the looming flood predicted by the Nigerian Meteorological Agency and the Nigeria Hydrological Services Agency. The Commandant, Marco Olatunde, gave the advice on Thursday after assessing the preparedness of the Command's disaster management unit as precautionary measures to avert flood disasters. Olatunde said the command, as a proactive measure in mitigating against flooding associated with the rainy season, has embarked on public awareness and advocacy visits, especially in high-risk communities, adding that the move is to educate and enlighten the public on the inherent dangers of floods, as well as the need for all and sundry to adapt measures, especially relocation advisories, to avert the impending disaster. NSCDC advised residents, particularly those living in flood-prone communities, to relocate to safer areas due to the predicted potential flooding warned by the Nigeria Meteorological Agency and the Nigeria Hydrological Services Agency. The state commandant has also directed the deputy commandant Nadi Ngozi in charge of the disaster management unit to mobilize an emergency team of personnel to flood-prone areas, intensify public awareness and sensitization campaigns across all media platforms, and collaborate with traditional rulers and other relevant stakeholders in disaster management across the state. The command also urged all area commanders and divisional officers, especially those of high-risk zones like Aye Melom, Anambra East, Anambra West, Onitsha North, Onitsha South, Oka North, and Ogbaru local government area respectively, to activate immediate preparedness and safe evacuation strategies to ensure residents are not caught unaware. Ekiti State Executive Council has approved about 18.5 billion naira for various projects covering construction of roads, electricity supply, water, sanitation and hygiene, agriculture, security and others. The Commissioner for Information, Taiwo Olatubosun, who disclosed this in a statement in Ado Ekiti on Thursday, said the approvals were given during a virtual State Executive Council meeting, where 10.11, 115 billion naira was approved for the rehabilitation of 11.4 kilometer and reconstruction of 6 kilometer Ita Ido Ile Okemesi Ikoro Road, in furtherance of the Biodun Oyebanji administration's commitment to proper maintenance and upgrading of the state's road network. The Commissioner said 1.1 billion naira was also approved for the construction of an access road to the new multi-purpose building at the University Teaching Hospital Ado Ekiti, adding that the road is expected to ease access to the new multi-purpose building at the hospital and a further demonstration of the commitment of the Oyebanji administration to ensuring a good, well-maintained road network that will make every part of the state accessible. Olatubosun said they also awarded an 1.83 billion naira contract for the remodeling of Adekunle Fajuyi Memorial Park to Mezeas. Route 9 Project Limited. The State Executive Council also approved 1.5 billion naira for the construction of the Odo Oja Water Scheme, Ikere Ekiti State, as part of efforts to increase access to potable water supply, sanitation and hygiene wash services in the state. The Commissioner said other approvals included 998.2 million naira for various electricity projects, including solar-powered street lights, transformers, electricity network rehabilitation, interventions, and a modular solar-powered irrigation system in various communities in the state that were aimed at boosting power supply, enhancing economic activities, and improving the security of lives and supply. Oyo State Commissioner for Culture and Tourism, Wasiu Olatubosun, says Sports tourism occupies a prime place in Governor Sheyi Makinde's agenda to expand the state's economy through tourism and hospitality. Olatubosun, who disclosed this at a press briefing organized ahead of the Oluyole Golf Tournament 2025, due to hold in August, said the governor has put in place several tourism enablers in sports, infrastructure, and security sectors to maximize the tourism potential of the state. He said sports remain an important part of tourism and hospitality, as most sporting events, especially golfing, drive massive movements into a state, with people lodging in hotels, going round to see tourism sites, and patronizing restaurants, bars, and clubs. The commissioner commended Governor Makinde for putting in place several successes indicators that have helped tourism to develop, including infrastructure and security, adding that the forthcoming golf club will enable participants to explore Ibadan and the state because of the good road networks and secured environment put in place by the governor. He equally commended the organizer of the event, following Lao Sun, describing him as a great supporter of culture and tourism in the state, adding that the state government would continue to support stakeholders and investors willing to promote tourism within the state. 3 suspected kidnappers have been killed during a gun duel with security operatives in Oyo State. Eyewitnesses said the incident occurred in Otu, the headquarters of the Itesiwaju local government area of the state, at midnight, adding that a group of suspected bandits reportedly invaded the community in a midnight attack and abducted one resident, leading to panic and apprehension among the locals. Some farmers quickly raised the alarm, prompting swift action from members of the state securities agency, who responded promptly and engaged the armed kidnappers in a gun duel. As of press time, the state police public relations officer Adewale Osifeso has not made comments on the incident. Federal Court of Appeal sitting in Akure, Ondo State capital, has affirmed the election of Governor Lucky Aiyedatiwa. The governor was elected on the platform of the All Progressives Congress, APC, and the Ondo State Governorship Election Petition Tribunal had earlier affirmed Aiyedatiwa's victory. The tribunal dismissed petitions filed by the opposition People's Democratic Party, PDP, and its governorship candidate Agbula Ajayi, challenging the outcome of the election. Kwara State High Court in Ilorin has sentenced Abdurrahman Bello to death by hanging for the brutal murder of Hafso Lawal, a final year student of the College of Education, Ilorin. Delivering the judgment on Thursday, Justice Hannah Ajayi found Bello guilty of luring Hafso to his residence under false pretenses before killing and dismembering her for alleged money rituals and trafficking in human body parts. Describing the crime as cruel, wicked, and an extreme display of human wickedness, the judge dismissed Bello's claims that he loved the victim and intended to marry her, labeling them as fabricated lies used to deceive and trap her. The offense occurred on February 10, 2025 at the Olunlade area in Ilorin, where Bello reportedly invited Hafso to his home, had sex with her, and then murdered her. While Bello was convicted and handed the death penalty, 4 other defendants, Ahmed Abdul Wasiu, Jamiu Osman, Suleiman Muyudin, and Abdurrahman Jami, were discharged and acquitted for lack of evidence linking them to the crime. Magistrate Court of the Federal Capital Territory, sitting in Wuse Zone 2, Abuja, has ordered the Inspector General of Police, Kayode Egbetokun, to produce in court a retired Assistant Inspector General of Police, Oyediran Oyeyemi, for allegedly parading himself as an officer still in active service. The court gave the order while delivering a ruling in the suit argued by the complainant's counsel, Anthony Agbazuere, that Oyeyemi, who left the force on March 3, 2024, is the defendant in the matter, while the complainant, Uche Ezeke, a private citizen, alleged that on May 6, 2024, Oyeyemi presented himself as an Assistant Inspector General in a letter without indicating that he is retired. At the resumed hearing of the case, the defendant failed to appear, prompting the complainant's counsel, Agbazuere, to apply for a warrant of arrest. According to Agbazuere, the retired officer continues to parade himself as a serving officer as he still goes about with his police uniform, and further alleged that the retired AIG does not disclose his retirement status in official correspondences, thereby misrepresenting himself to the public. Aluku therefore ordered Egbetokun to compel the appearance of Oyeyemi in court on September 8, while the matter was adjourned to that date for further hearing. Federal Capital Territory Administration has commenced a comprehensive hepatitis screening of food handlers, especially those working in restaurants, markets, bakeries, and canteens. The commencement followed the goodwill message by the FCT Minister Yesom Wike, on the occasion of World Hepatitis Day 2025, delivered on behalf of Mr. Wiki by the Mandate Secretary, Health Services and Environment Secretariat, Dr. Ade Dolapo Fasawe. He said the initiative is aimed at preventing hepatitis and other foodborne diseases, thereby protecting public health and empowering food businesses to operate with enhanced confidence and credibility. The FCT minister described food handlers as an overlooked group whose role is pivotal in safeguarding public health, adding that the launching of a strategic initiative to enhance food safety through comprehensive hepatitis screening of food handlers. Wiki also said the ambitious initiative is being scaled up through an innovative public-private partnership consortium in alignment with the national policy on food safety and quality that will combine efficiency, technical expertise, and funding capacity of the private sector with government oversight to implement regular and mandatory hepatitis B and C screening for all food handlers within the FCT. Nigerian troops stationed at the checkpoint near Zuma Barracks in Niger State foiled a kidnap attempt and rescued 2 victims during a gun battle with suspected bandits. Counterinsurgency expert and security analyst in the Lake Chad region, Zagazola Makama, in a post on his X handle on Thursday, said the incident occurred behind Zuma Rock near Chachi village in Tafa local government area. According to the security experts, following a report of sporadic gunfire, troops arrived at the location and found a black 2008 Honda Accord abandoned in a pit bearing gunshot holes on its front doors, and the troops engaged the attackers in the shootout, thwarting the kidnap attempt and rescuing the occupants of the vehicle. The victims, identified as Samson Audu of Bakusa, Day and his girlfriend, Joy Basi, sustained injuries during the attack, and investigations revealed that Audu was shot in the right hand while Basi suffered a head injury. They were rushed to Right Care Hospital in Dakwa, where they are currently receiving treatment and responding well. Nigerian Medical Association Katsina State Chapter has scaled down services due to the ongoing industrial actions declared by the National Association of Nigerian Nurses and Midwifery across the country. Chairman NMA Katsina State, Dr. Muhammadu Sani, who disclosed this on Thursday, spoke on the current situation of perished patients in Katsina hospitals, adding that due to the NAM strike, doctors have scaled down services until the deadline passes or a solution is reached. Sani further spoke on a looming doctor strike across the country and highlighted the reasons behind the agitation, stating the government's unfulfilled agreement was responsible for the consequences. He also said persistent disagreements and breaches of promises between the federal government and healthcare unions, particularly the Nigerian Medical Association, the National Association of Nigerian Nurses and Midwives, and other allied health workers, were core issues of poor remuneration, lack of improvement in the welfare of healthcare workers, especially doctors, and the absence of adequate equipment and infrastructure in the health facilities. Dr. Sani equally said Nigerian healthcare workers are among the most overburdened civil service servants today, with a dwindling workforce, massive brain drain, and burnout due to the system's collapse. Suspected smugglers of petroleum products in Adamawa State have launched violent attacks on officers of the Nigeria Customs Service, injuring personnel and attempting to set them ablaze. The National Coordinator of Operation Whirlwind, Controller Hussein Ejibunu, who disclosed this during a press briefing on Thursday at the Adamawa and Taraba Area Command of the NCS in Yola, said the customs officers under the anti-smuggling operation had been ambushed twice within 2 weeks by the suspect while attempting to curb illegal fuel smuggling across the state's borders. He described the first attack, which occurred on July 16, 2025 in Mujara, Mubi North local government area, as particularly disturbing, where the officers were ambushed with daggers and sticks and narrowly escaped being forced into operational vehicles, and in the process, the smugglers allegedly intended to set ablaze, and the second attack happened days later when suspected smugglers hurled stones at officers returning from a surveillance duty. Despite the escalating violence, Ejibunu said his team had successfully intercepted a total of 69,375 liters of petrol and diesel intended for illegal export from Adamawa State. He condemned the attacks and reiterated the commitment of Operation Whirlwind to clamp down on fuel smuggling and safeguard national resources. Sokoto State Government has expended a total of 5.3 billion naira on the joint procurement of 105,800 bags of assorted fertilizers for the 2025 cropping season to bolster food security and empower farmers. Governor Ahmed Aliyu, who disclosed this during the official flag-off of the scales of subsidized fertilizers and agrochemicals in Gwadabawa local government area, said the event attracted key stakeholders from across the state's agricultural sector and the procurement was undertaken in partnership with the 23 local government councils. Governor Aliyu said the initiative was designed to ensure timely access to quality agricultural inputs and to support the transition to mechanized farming, and also planned to procure tiller machines to assist smallholder farmers. The governor further announced contracts for the rehabilitation of Lugu Dam and Kware irrigation facilities to enable all year-round farming and charged farmers to use subsidized inputs responsibly, and warned against diversion, directing security agencies to monitor the process closely. National Agency for the Prohibition of Trafficking in Persons has rescued a total of 170 trafficked persons in various operations across Borno State. The Zonal Commander NAPTIP Maiduguri Zonal Command Muhammad Danlami, who was represented by an official of the agency, Dauda Joseph, during an event organized to commemorate the 2025 World Day Against Trafficking in Persons, said the victims who were rescued between January and July were mostly women and children. He said the event provided an opportunity to sensitize participants to identify the tactics of traffickers who, he said, mostly use fake employment opportunities. The Deputy Comptroller of the Nigeria Immigration Service in Borno State, B.W. Usman, said the federal government had deployed necessary technology to combat trafficking in border states, and while listing recent successes, he said, through the technology deployments, victims have been rescued and handed over to NAPTIP, and investigations have been launched. Yobe State government has approved over 40 billion naira for key capital projects across the state. Commissioner for Information, Home Affairs and Culture, Abdullahi Bego, said the approval was declared after the State Executive Council meeting presided over by Governor Mai Buni in Damaturu. The commissioner said the council approved 1.7 billion naira for the construction of office complexes to accommodate 5 state government agencies, stating additionally 962.65 million naira was approved for the construction of a dedicated office building for the Yobe Investment Company Limited. The council, according to the commissioner, approved 6.1 billion naira for the establishment of a central motor park in Damaturu and 248 million naira for the first phase of remodeling and upgrading the Yobe line terminals. To boost agricultural productivity, the council approved 3.8 billion naira for the procurement of agricultural inputs for dry season farming, 480 million naira for the purchase of 490 solar-powered water pumps, while 1.3 billion naira was used for the purchase of 1,412 solar-powered water pumps, and 5.3 billion naira for the procurement of NPK fertilizers for the 2025 farming season. On healthcare, the council reaffirmed the government's commitment to healthcare delivery by approving 1.4 billion naira for construction works in selected health facilities and training institutions, 1.23 billion naira for the procurement of medical and laboratory equipment for secondary and tertiary healthcare facilities, and the absorption of 110 midwives, 54 community health extension workers, and 258 community-based health workers. National Emergency Management Agency has confirmed that 9 people lost their lives in a boat accident that occurred at Zangon Maje village in Taura, local government area of Jigawa State. The agency shared the update on X, formerly Twitter, on Thursday. According to NEMA's Kano Operations Office, the tragic incident happened on Sunday, July 27, 2025, when a boat carrying 17 passengers, mostly young girls, capsized mid-journey while traveling from Digawa village in Jahun local government area to Zangon Maje village in Taura local government area. The statement said on the arrival of the NEMA team at the scene, it was confirmed that 8 individuals were rescued alive by local divers, while 9 others were unfortunately confirmed dead. You're still watching the Global News on Atlantic Television Network. We'll be back after this break. Do stay tuned. Welcome back. This is the Global News on Atlantic Television Network. And now to the rest of our stories. President Bola Tinubu was sworn in Uzo Kalu as the Commissioner of the National Assembly Service Commission, representing the Southeast Zone. Kalu took the oath of office and allegiance at 2 p.m. at the council chambers of the State House, Abuja, on Thursday. Shortly before the commencement of the Federal Executive Council meeting, his confirmation by the Senate was on May 2020, followed the adoption of the Establishment and Public Service Committee's report, with the upper chamber noting that an earlier petition against his nomination had been investigated and dismissed by the Ethics, Code of Conduct and Public Petitions Committee. He joined the new cohort of commissioners inaugurated at the State House for a renewable 5-year term on May 5, 2025. Kalu, younger brother of Senator Orji Uzo Kalu, former Abia State Governor, is a former two-term member of the House of Representatives for Aba North and Aba South, 5th and 6th National Assemblies. The council also observed the minute silence in honor of former Minister of Police Affairs, Navy Captain Caleb Olubolade, who died on May 11, 2025, aged 70. The council then proceeded into a closed-door session. President Bola Tinubu has approved the 1-year extension of the tenure of the Comptroller General of the Nigerian Customs Service, Adeniyi, whose tenure was initially set to expire on August 31, 2025, will now remain in office until August 2026. A statement signed by the President's Special Advisor on Information and Strategy, Bayo Onanuga, the extension is aimed at allowing Adeniyi to consolidate ongoing reforms and complete key initiatives of the Tinubu administration, which include the modernization of the Customs Service, implementation of the National Single Window Project, and Nigeria's obligations under the African Continental Free Trade Area Protocol. President Tinubu recognizes Mr. Adeniyi's steadfast leadership and commitment to service and express confidence that the reappointment and extension will further strengthen the Nigeria Customs Service in achieving its strategic mandate of trade facilitation, revenue generation, and border security. This is coming after Tinubu appointed Adeniyi as CG of the Nigeria Customs Service in October 2023, who took over from former CG Hamid Ali in June 2023, had initially been appointed in an acting capacity before his confirmation in October of the same year. Speaker of the House of Representatives, Tajuddin Abbas, says the 10th National Assembly has availed Nigerians of its works and programs through multiple digital platforms that has empowered and protected the rights of the Nigerian people. Abbas stated this on Thursday in his contribution to the debate on the role of parliaments in shaping the digital future at the ongoing 6th World Conference of Speakers of Parliaments organized by the International Parliamentary Union and United Nations in Geneva, Switzerland. A statement issued on Thursday by the Special Advisor on Media and Publicity to the Speaker, Musa Krishi, quoted Abbas as saying, Nigeria is dedicated to promoting digital rights, safety and inclusion through proactive legislation, and the country have implemented key laws such as the Nigeria Data Protection Act and the Amendment Cybercrime Bill, which strengthen confidence in our digital infrastructure and update our legal framework to meet modern challenges. According to the Speaker, the reserved seats for women bill reflects the Nigerian Parliament's commitment to ensuring digital policies promote gender equity and inclusivity, stressing that Africa must not remain a passive recipient of foreign technologies or a laboratory for digital trials, but must actively shape the global digital landscape. He also said Nigeria proposes establishing a global parliamentary forum on artificial intelligence to foster collaboration among parliaments on AI governance, craft ethical guidelines that uphold human rights, and create shared accountability frameworks, and urged other parliamentarians to seize the opportunity to transcend routine oversight and become forward-thinking legislators who advocate for digital governance rooted in equity, justice, and human dignity. House of Representatives Committee on China-Nigeria Parliamentary Relations has launched an investigation into a viral video showing some Nigerian workers in the Central African Republic alleging abandonment and ill treatment. In the video, which surfaced last Thursday, the miners claimed they were recruited by a Chinese mining company but were later abandoned and had their passports confiscated and were later subjected to inhumane treatment. The workers appealed to Nigerians to amplify their message and draw attention to their situation, and reacting, the chairman of the committee, Jafaru Yakubu, in a statement, expressed concern over the situation and expressed regrets over the unfortunate situation the Nigerian workers are being subjected to in Central African Republic, and assures that a comprehensive investigation is currently ongoing to unravel the circumstances that led to their ordeal. The committee urged the public not to associate Ademola's alleged actions with legitimate Chinese businesses operating in Nigeria, adding that Abdurrauf Ademola, the businessman who allegedly abandoned the Nigerians in Central African Republic, had issued a statement refuting the allegations made by the workers who accused him of passport seizure, unpaid salaries, and abandonment in the widely circulated video. In order to ensure the safe and dignified return of Nigerian migrants, the National Emergency Management Agency has received 139 Nigerian returnees from Agadez, Niger Republic. The returnees arrived at the Malam Aminu Kano International Airport in Kano, while NEMA made this known on its official X account on Thursday. According to NEMA's Kano Operations Office, the returnees comprised 22 male adults, 52 male adults, 33 male children, and 32 female children, and the reception exercise was well coordinated and successfully conducted. Minister of Education Dr. Tunji Alausa has ordered the introduction of compulsory and random drug integrity tests for students in tertiary institutions across the country. This decision followed a meeting in Abuja with the chairman and chief executive of the National Drug Law Enforcement Agency, Brigadier General Buba Marwa, retired. Excuse me. Where both parties discussed measures to curb substance abuse among students. A statement by the agency spokesman Femi Babafemi, the minister approved a review of the current secondary school curriculum to incorporate updated drug education and committed to forming an inter-ministerial working group with the NDLEA. Babafemi said the development is coming after the NDLEA boss had proposed a three-pronged approach, revising drug education content in schools, introducing standalone drug abuse prevention programs in secondary schools, and implementing a drug testing policy for tertiary institutions, including for new students, returning students, and random testing. Marwa described the drug scourge as a threat to national security and youth development, citing its links to criminal activities such as terrorism and banditry, adding that the agency had arrested over 40,000 drug offenders and seized more than 5,500 metric tons of drugs in the past 2 years. The minister also expressed commitment to working with the Universal Basic Education Commission and Tertiary Education Trust Fund to support the NDLA Academy in Jos, Plateau State. Chief of Army Staff, Lieutenant General Olufemi Oluyede, has appealed for improved funding for the Nigerian Army, citing the growing demands of operational efficiency and personal welfare. Oluyede made the appeal on Thursday during a visit by the Senate Committee on Army to the Army headquarters in Abuja. He commended the committee for its oversight and ongoing support to the Army, but stressed that current funding mechanisms, particularly the envelope budgeting system, were inadequate to meet the Army's needs, and urged the committee to consider creating special funding provisions for the Army outside the envelope budgeting structure to enable it to provide the required combat support and welfare infrastructure. In his remarks, the chairman of the Senate Committee on Army, Senator Abdulaziz Yaradua, acknowledged the Army's funding constraints and reaffirmed the committee's commitment to advocating for improved budgetary allocations, adding that while most projects visited were progressing well, with some already completed, there were concerns about a few which had been brought to the attention of the Army leadership. Former Senator representing Kogi West, Dino Melaye, has formally resigned from the People's Democratic Party, citing the party's inability to provide credible leadership and deliver good governance to Nigerians. In a resignation letter shared on his official X account on Thursday, dated July 4, 2025, and addressed to the chairman of the PDP in Ward 1, Ayetoro Gade, Ijimo local government area of Kogi State, Melaye announced his immediate withdrawal from all party activities. He said the decision had become imperative due to the lack of potency and capacity by the party to deliver the Nigerian people from the prevailing political cankerworms that have eaten deeply into the fabric of their nation, Nigeria. Melaye, who was served as the PDP's candidate in the 2023 Kogi State governorship election, said his decision followed deep reflection on the party's current state and trajectory, further requested that his resignation be treated as a formal and total withdrawal from all party levels and structures. In his closing remarks, Melaye expressed gratitude for the opportunity to serve under the party's platform during his time as a member. The Joint Admissions and Matriculation Board says more than 40 individuals in the past 5 years were involved in examination malpractice in the Unified Tertiary Matriculation Examination are currently standing trial in various courts across the country. JAM said more than 70 persons were successfully prosecuted between 2019 and 2024, adding that it secured the convictions of over 10 individuals during the period under review, and in 2015, JAMB introduced the computer-based test to curb fraudulent practices in UTME. It also said since then, several individuals who attempted to beat the board surveillance system have been caught and prosecuted across the country, while in January 2021, JAMB in its weekly bulletin declared plans to collaborate with security agencies to prosecute any institution or candidate found in breach of its admissions code of operations, adding that stringent measures, including prosecution, would be applied against erring candidates or institutions once a prima facie case is established. JAMB said the decision followed the management meeting focused on the need to read the admissions process of unethical practices. The registrar of JAMB, Professor Ishak Oloyede, also said the board had put measures in place to curb admission infractions, stressing that although the central admissions processing system had made the admission process more transparent, fair and equitable, some stakeholders still attempted to circumvent the system. JAMB's public communication advisor, Dr. Fabian Benjamin, further said the nation's tertiary examinations monitoring body declared that it has significantly reduced corruption and exam malpractice in its computer-based tests nationwide, and in the past 5 years, JAMB has consistently reported arrests and prosecutions relating to exam malpractice and other irregularities, particularly in the conduct of the UTME. UN Children's Fund says Nigeria has the second highest number of cases of cholera outbreak in West and Central Africa. Beg your pardon. Director for West and Central Africa, Gilles Fagnino, said the cholera outbreak in Nigeria had become endemic, and as of end of June, Nigeria recorded 3,109 suspected cholera cases and 86 deaths across 34 states, and the figure made Nigeria the second most affected country in the West and Central Africa region. He said the cholera outbreak in the West and Central African region posed a crisis for children, while some 80,000 children were estimated to be at high risk of cholera in West and Central Africa as the rainy season began across the region. According to him, the heavy rains, widespread flooding, and the high level of displacement are all fueling the risk of cholera transmission and putting the lives of children at risk, adding that cholera is an acute diarrhea infection caused by consuming food or water contaminated with bacteria, and the disease can be treated with oral rehydration solution and antibiotics, but it can be fatal within hours if untreated. He also said UNICEF West and Central Africa urgently required $20 million over the next 3 months to scale up critical support in health, WASH, as well as risk communication and community engagement. Now to some business news. Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited says the Port Harcourt Refinery Company is not for sale and has confirmed its intention to raise additional funding to complete the rehabilitation of the refining company and 2 other refineries operating in the country. This is coming within 2 decades, from 2002 to 2012, when NNPC secured funding approval of over 16 trillion naira for the turnaround maintenance of the Port Harcourt, Warri and Kaduna refineries, while actively exploring advanced technical partnerships as part of a renewed strategy to accelerate the rehabilitation of the Port Harcourt refinery. Group Chief Executive Officer of NNPC Limited, Bayo Ojulari, said during a company-wide town hall meeting at the NNPC Towers in Abuja that the state-owned oil firm has officially ruled out the sale of the Port Harcourt Refining Company and reaffirmed its commitment of completing the high-grade rehabilitation and retention of the plant. A statement by the company management said the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited has officially ruled out the sale of the Port Harcourt Refining Company and described selling the Port Harcourt Refining Company as ill-advised and sub-commercial. The statement released on the same day, Dangote Group President Alhaji Aliko Dangote expressed doubts about the viability of the state-owned refineries, triggered a wave of speculation that a sale might be imminent. Reacting to the development, the Independent Petroleum Marketers Association of Nigeria commended the plan by the company not to sell the Port Harcourt refinery, insisting that the project is already 90% completed and should be concluded by the original contractors. The National Publicity Secretary of IPMAN, Chinedu Okadike, who disclosed this, said it would be illogical to consider a sale after so much investment and progress on the rehabilitation work, and attributed the delay in the refinery's completion to non-payment of contractors, alleging that the federal government is yet to settle outstanding obligations to Technimont, the engineering procurement and construction firm handling the rehabilitation. Minister of Budget and Economic Planning Abubakar Bagudu says the fiscal position of northern states has significantly improved under President Bola Tinubu, followed sweeping economic reforms that have reduced the region's domestic debt by 42.6%. A statement by the ministry following his presentation to the state to the Sir Ahmadu Bello Memorial Foundation at a two-day interactive session on government citizen engagement held in Kaduna said the economic reforms introduced by Tinubu administration, particularly the removal of fuel subsidy, have led to a sharp increase in federally allocated revenue and a corresponding decline in state debt. Bagudu said between May 2023 and June 2025, net statutory revenue and valued added tax allocations to states and local governments more than doubled from 458.81 billion naira to 991.81 billion naira, representing a 533 billion naira or 116.17% increase, and the increase excluded foreign exchange gains, EMT levies, and other augmentation payments, and also attributed the revenue growth to the administration's decision to end fuel subsidy payments, which freed up trillions of naira for redistribution through the federation account. He said expansion in federal allocations had exceeded 340% since the reform was implemented, and all states across the country recorded revenue increases, but the northern region saw some of the most significant gains, adding that the Tinubu administration's macro-fiscal reforms were yielding tangible benefits across the federation. African Development Bank has committed $1.2 million in grants to support a feasibility study on battery energy storage systems in Nigeria, adding that the project will assess grid integration, identify viable business and regulatory models to attract investment and build the capacity needed for ownership and sustainability. The AFDB Director General, Nigeria Country Department, Abdul Kamara, disclosed this while speaking at the inaugural Inception Workshop for Nigeria Best Feasibility Study in Abuja, organized by Transmission Company of Nigeria, AFDB, and Sustainable Energy Fund for Africa. He said the grant is part of the Africa Energy Transition Catalyst Program, which aims to promote sustainable energy solutions in Africa, and represented by Chigozri Egeruo of the AFDB Nigeria Country Office. Kamara said Africa holds almost 60% of the world's best solar resources, yet accounts for only 2% of global energy storage capacity. He said the project will assess grid integration, identify viable business and regulatory models to attract investment and build the capacity needed for ownership and sustainability, adding that the initiative aligns closely with Nigeria's energy transition plan as well as the renewable energy master plan by reinforcing policy coherence across energy, climate, and innovation, stressing that battery storage is no longer a luxury but a necessity. In his remarks, the Minister of Power, Adebayo Adelabo, said the feasibility study is not just a technical exercise but a strategic step towards future-proofing the country's power infrastructure, adding that Nigeria's power sector has undergone significant reforms, particularly the issues of power intermittency, limited dispatch ability of renewable energy, grid instability, and underutilized energy generation. Federal Minister of Aviation and Aerospace Development has opposed a proposed legislative amendment seeking to transfer the Nigerian Safety Investigation Bureau from its oversight to the Office of the Secretary to the Government of the Federation. The ministry's stance was presented at a one-day public hearing organized by the House of Representatives Joint Committees on Aviation and Special Duties held at the National Assembly Complex, Abuja, where the hearing deliberated on the bill to amend the NSIB Act No. 35 of 2022. Representing the Minister of Aviation and Aerospace Development, Festus Keyamo, the Permanent Secretary, Ibrahim Kana, stressed on the importance of keeping the NSIB under the ministry's supervision, adding that the NSIB is the multimodal transport safety investigation agency that plays a critical role in investigating accidents and incidents across the aviation, maritime, rail, and road transport sectors. Kana also said the NSIB's independence is already protected with its principal officers appointed directly by the President in line with existing law and ICAO's Article 26, and reaffirmed the ministry's willingness to collaborate with stakeholders in advancing Nigeria's transport safety framework, adding that the ministry is committed to working with all relevant parties to ensure the advancement of Nigeria's transport safety architecture in line with international best practices. In his opening remarks, the chairman of the House Committee on Special Duties, Agbedi Frederick, underscored the importance of hearing and refining and strengthening the NSIB's mandate, adding that the contributions will ensure that the amended act reflects the collective commitment to a safer Nigeria. Maritime stakeholders have described Nigerian lagoons, including Takwa Bay and Bonny, among others, as the world's highest marine dump sites, which were once hubs of commercial ferry activities and vibrant fishing economies that are now neglected, with many inland waterways abandoned or polluted and ferry services diminishing. The stakeholders disclosed this in Apapa, Lagos during a one-day executive course on the blue economy for media practitioners organized by the Nigerian Navy International Maritime Institute of Nigeria. In his paper presentation titled Introduction to the Blue Economy, the Chairman, Board of Trustee of Maritime Security Practitioners, Association of Nigeria, Rear Admiral Francis Dan Akpan, retired, said other nations are advancing with maritime development and unlocking their ocean resources as well as boosting marine tourism to develop their gross domestic products and unlocking potentials with its waters characterized by pollution and waste. He attributed the challenge to what he described as sea blindness, underscoring the country's environmental mismanagement and lack of structured action plans to harness the assets sustainably, and warned that the country's continued sea blindness poses a major threat to its economic future. Earlier, the president of the Nigerian Maritime Law Association, Mrs. Funke Agbo, a senior advocate of Nigeria, described the recently concluded national policy on blue economy as a beautiful document, but warned that implementation may be the problem. Maritime stakeholders have extolled Lekki Deep Sea Port for the transshipment success and efficiency the port has recorded since it began operations in 2023, describing it as a beacon of progress in Nigeria's maritime sector. The stakeholders will disclose this during the Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry Freight Forwarders Group conference themed From Ports to Prosperity, fixing the links in Nigeria's supply chain, urged policymakers, port operators, customs officials, freight forwarders, and trade facilitators to address critical bottlenecks within Nigeria's logistics ecosystem. Speaking during a panel session, the Deputy Chief Operating Officer at Lekki Port, Mr. Daniel Odibe, spotlighted the port's growing role in unlocking transshipment value for West Africa, adding that with a 16.5-meter draft and superposed Panamax cranes, the port can receive the largest vessels in the world and discharge cargo swiftly. According to him, Lekki Port is not just operational, it is exemplary and already working with agencies and partners to scale transshipment into landlocked countries and reduce overall port dwell time. National Identity Management Commission says the successful migration of all telecommunications firms in Nigeria is to upgrade National Identification Number Verification Platform, known as NINA Auth. The identity regulator said that the development would enhance data protection, improve service delivery, and strengthen digital trust across the country's identity ecosystem. The Director of IT and IDD at NIMC, Larry Uyuso, said telecom operators are now fully integrated with the platform, enabling uninterrupted identity verification services, adding that the milestone reflects commitment to securing digital identity and empowering Nigerians with greater control over their personal data. He also said the NINA Auth platform provides more secure and seamless access to identity verification services and also supports smoother user authentication, as well as ensures better privacy standards and simplifies access to telecom and digital services. Head of Corporate Communications, NIMC, Dr. Kayode Adegoke, said the platform gives NIN holders more control over how the data is accessed and advised members of the public expressing issues with SIM registration, swaps, migration or retrieval, welcome back to contact their telecommunications providers directly for resolution. National Insurance Commission has branded insurtech firms from participating in businesses in the oil and gas as well as marine, aviation sectors from engaging in cryptocurrency transactions without its approval. This was disclosed in the guidelines for insurtech operations in Nigeria, which the regulator issued via its website, adding that insurtech is derived from insurance and technology and refers to an institution that uses technological innovations to provide insurance services. The new guidelines, which go into effect on August 1, 2025, stipulate some non-permissible activities that insurtechs cannot participate, including oil and gas insurance, marine and aviation insurance, retirement life annuity, adding that insurance of government assets and liabilities for ministries, departments, and agencies use dynamic pricing without actuarial support or prior approval from the Commission, and complete reliance on artificial intelligence systems to decline claims without human intervention. They are also barred from physical marketing of insurance products as done by conventional insurance operators, adding that for insurtech partnering with insurance institutions, the regulator pegged the minimum capital requirement at 10 million naira as of the date of application and shall continue to maintain the same throughout the license period, and also added professional indemnity of not less than 100 million naira or as may be prescribed by the Commission from time to time. The Commission warned that it may increase from time to time the minimum capital requirement, adding that the sector would be required to submit to the Commission audited annual financial statements not later than the first quarter of the subsequent year. Federal government has again reaffirmed its commitment to a low-carbon economy through a people-centered just transition framework that safeguards livelihoods and drives economic diversification. The Director General and Chief Executive of the National Council on Climate Change Secretariat, Dr. Nkiruka Maduekwe, who discloses at the final National Stakeholders Consultation on the Development of Nigeria's Just Transition Guideline held in Port Harcourt, said experts and labor leaders called for concrete policies to protect vulnerable workers and communities during Nigeria's energy shift. Dr. Maduekwe said Nigeria's transition will be rooted in social inclusion and economic resilience and will also move towards a low-carbon, climate-resilient future to proactively create decent green jobs while protecting existing livelihoods as well as empowering workforce with new skills and safeguarding vulnerable communities against disruptions. The session, organized with support from the United Nations Development Programme, International Labour Organization and United Nations Industrial Development Organization, marks the conclusion of a national consultation process that had been earlier held in Abuja, Lagos, and Kano respectively. Dr. Madueke, while calling for action as the process moves towards final validation, said the development of the Just Transition Guideline aligns with Nigeria's commitments under its nationally determined contributions, the Climate Change Act, and the National Development Plan, all of which prioritize sustainable economic growth in line with global climate goals. The also Nigerian Labour Congress presented policy briefs and a climate justice strategic action plan and reiterated the need for a Just Transition Commission with Labour representation to monitor implementation, adding that Nigeria must use its fossil fuel revenues wisely while preparing for a clean energy future. And now to international tidbits. U.S. President Donald Trump's Middle East envoy, Steve Witkoff, arrived in Israel on Thursday to discuss ways to end the crisis in Gaza, where nearly 22 months of grinding war and dire shortages of food have drawn mounting international criticism. Gaza's Civil Defense Agency said dozens of Palestinians were killed late Wednesday when Israeli forces opened fire on a crowd attempting to block an aid convoy, and the latest in the spate of near-daily incidents of desperate aid seekers being shot. The Israeli military confirmed having fired warning shots as Gazans gathered around 8 trucks, but said it had no knowledge of casualties in the incidents and the bullet-riddled corpses of Palestinians in Gaza's Al-Shifa hospital. Jamil Ashur, who lost a relative in the shooting, said the overflowing morgue that Israel troops had opened fire after a crowd surged towards the convoy and may also visit a U.S.-backed humanitarian group distributing food in Gaza. Witkoff has been the top U.S. representative in indirect ceasefire negotiations between Israel and Hamas, but the discussions broke down last week when Israel and the United States recalled their delegations from Doha, and Israel is under mounting international pressure to engage a ceasefire and allow the world to flood a hungry Gaza with flood. With Canada, the latest Western country to announce plans to recognize a Palestinian state. Trump has been Israel's staunchest international defender at a time when concerns about the campaign in Gaza have left Netanyahu increasingly isolated on the world stage, but the two leaders have occasionally found themselves at odds of late. U.S. officials said they will sanction Brazilian Supreme Court Judge Alexandra de Moraes, accusing him of authorizing arbitrary pre-trial detentions and suppressing freedom of expression. Judge Moraes has been leading the investigation into allegations that Brazil's former right-wing President Jair Bolsonaro and his allies plotted a coup after he lost the 2022 election, and denied that those allegations has called Judge Moraes a dictator. Shortly after the sanctions were announced, U.S. President Donald Trump signed an executive order that raised tariffs on Brazil to 50%, while Brazilian President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva said Brazil is willing to negotiate with the U.S. on the trade, but called sanctions targeting the Moraes as unacceptable interference in the country's justice system. Oh, God. He said on X that Brazil had accumulated a significant trade deficit in goods and services with the United States over the past few decades, and that the measures undermine national sovereignty and the historical relationship between the two countries. Meanwhile, Trump had threatened to impose steep tariffs earlier this month in a letter he shared on social media to Lula, adding that the executive order on tariffs excludes several of Brazil's major exports from the steep taxes, including orange juice, including some aircraft parts and energy products. The order also ties the tariffs directly to Brazil's politically motivated persecution, intimidation, harassment, censorship, and persecution, while Brazil has threatened to match any tariff imposed by the U.S., adding that the U.S. is Brazil's second largest trade partner with China, after China, so the hike would hit the South American nation hard. And that's the global news for tonight. Before we go, another look at the major stories. Navy destroys 10 illegal refining sites in Delta State. Court affirms Ayedatiwa's election as governor of Ondo State. Tinubu swears in rep in Assembly Service Commission. NNPC denies sale of Port Harcourt refinery. Trump's envoy arrives Israel to discuss Gaza crisis. Oviedo begin talks with Porto for Super Eagles defender. And Tubaba weds Natasha Osawaru. I am Favor Chikwesiri Michael. Thank you for watching. You can follow us on our social media platforms on Twitter at Atlantic TV Net, on Facebook and YouTube at Atlantic Television Network, and on Instagram at Atlantic TV Network. Don't forget, peace and unity are the pathways to progress. Thank you for watching and have a pleasant night rest.